Hello, and so today we're going to be learning how to be adding and subtracting polynomial expressions. And so we'll start the lesson off with identifying like terms and unlike terms. And so, for example, we have 4x with 2x and an x. And just a review to go over coefficients, this one is 4, this one is 2, and this one is 1. And so constant numbers can also be like terms, 1, 3, and 5. And so when they are not the same variable or a number with a variable, then they are not like terms. Another example of like terms is when they have the same variable with the same power. And so you can have x squared and 2x squared. And again, the x squared here is 1x squared with 2x squared. And so when you have like terms, you can combine them or perform the operations that are given. And so today we will be talking about adding. And so when you do that, you are looking at the coefficients, the numbers in front of the variable, and you are adding. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And the variable does not change, and it goes along there. And so that's what we'll be performing today and learning how to do. So our first example that we have will be adding polynomials, which is just combining like terms that you can identify. And so we want to identify any x squared terms, and we'll do a double underline to just make sure we don't get confused with any others. So you can see here that there's a 4x squared. So this is negative 1x squared with positive 4x squared. And we want to keep them in their own column. Next, you can see that we have a negative 1, so we'll identify it there. And there is no other constant, so we'll move on. And then here we can see that we have negative x. And so we are going to go ahead and combine our like terms. 4 positives with 1 negative make 3x squared negative x minus the 1. And that will be our final answer. Okay, and so we'll do another example just to further the understanding. And so again, we're going to be adding polynomials. So we'll identify our like terms. We have a 5x squared. And so here's another x squared term. And so we'll put them in a column together. And this is adding. And so we have 2x squared. 2x. And so we look for another x term, which is right here. So we have 2x minus 1x. And lastly, we look for constants. We have negative 1, positive 2. And so now we can look at the coefficients and perform the operation. So 5 plus 4, 9. The variable here does not change, so it comes down. So now we have to see which one's larger, and this is just 2 minus 1, so it's plus 1x. And again, 2 minus 1 is plus 1, and so there we have our final answer. And so again, like terms, you do not change the variable and the power, you just are looking at the coefficients. Okay. So now we'll notice that instead of adding, we're going to be subtracting polynomials. And so now there's one difference in this step, and that's identifying this minus sign. And in these problems, this minus sign is meaning we're going to have to distribute here and perform the opposite of. And so we'll rewrite the original first expression, and now we go a negative times a negative, is a positive x squared, or you can say the opposite of a negative is positive x squared. The opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. And now we have our like terms to identify. This is positive 1. So we have 5x squared. This is the solo x term as well as the only constant term. And so the only difference that we have here would be the initial opposite of everything that is inside the parentheses. Okay, and so for our final problem, we'll be doing one less subtracting polynomials. And so again, we'll rewrite the first expression as it is. We do not do the opposite of because there is no negative sign. And again, now we have this negative. Opposite of negative z to the third is positive. Opposite of positive is negative 2z. Opposite of positive 1 is negative 1. And so from here now we can set up the columns. And we have a negative z to the third. We have a positive z to the third. We have a negative 2z. Another negative 2z. And lastly, we can just identify negative 1 and negative 1. And so now we'll perform the operations. Opposites are going to cancel each other out. 2 negative with 2 more negatives gives you negative 4z. And this will give you negative 2. Alright, so there we have it. We have adding and subtracting polynomials. And we thank you for your time.